Do you want one of these? Or you got your own? Okay. Just one or two? Feels like it's thicker than it should be. Whatever, you'll find out. Okay. So let's review. He said there are 5 drachim, okay, or 4 plus his good one. All right. We did the first 2 last time, right? What were the first 2 drachim of learning Chumash?
Circle around the dot.
Yes. First one's the circle around the dot. You want to decode it? You want to give me the nimshal? Yeah. Yeah, we actually didn't explain why it is the circumference, right? I realize I don't know how we,
As opposed to what?
as opposed to, well, let's say the second derech, do you remember how he described them in relation to the circle? Sometimes outside entirely and sometimes in the circle. So we should think about these also, yeah. Wait, yes, what was the first derech? I don't remember. Yeah, basically someone whose view of interpreting Chumash is bringing all the extraneous chachmos and like decoding the details and like who lived where and what the geography is, and like we said that's like the lower tier of the modern day academic approach of just like focusing on like obscure minutiae that don't actually like contribute to an understanding of the Torah regimen in terms of mitos and deos. Okay, so the second derech. Oh, so and then why are they in the circumference? I think that's kind of clear now.
Just like the outside. They're missing the point.
Aha! There you go. They're missing the point, right? Is the point, because that's how he started off, right? Is if the truth is like a point in the middle of the circle, they're just, they're condemned to like being on the outskirts. Yeah, because then the second derech, which he had the long astronomical example for.
People who think that the moon works a certain way.
Yes, that's their entire derech limud. Rebbe, teach me the derech limud. Well, you see the moon, and it's yeah.
I don't remember why.
Yeah, it's easy to get lost in his.
It's people who interpret it whatever way they want without the guidance of the Torah.
Yes, right. Rejecting Torah Shabbat, right? Exactly. Yeah, and so the Tzedukim are the chief offenders, Karaites, which he didn't say by name, and then he brought all those examples. Well, he brought that one example, which had many examples to show that like you can't understand mitzvos properly. Number one, you can't understand mitzvos properly without Torah Shabbat. Number two is if you try, you end up in with problems in your interpretation, which we didn't see the particulars of that. Did anyone go and like read it? No. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So what were
Don't like Parshtonim do that all the time. Like Ramban, Ibn Ezra, like they do quote like pesukim, but Chazal, but they also have like interpretations that aren't in Chazal.
Yeah. So how do you differentiate between what the Tzedukim do and what they do?
Yes, and they're not doing halacha.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. I think his critique is launched against these people for their approach to the mitzvos, and he himself, when he approaches the narrative portions, will frequently ignore Agadata,
This is the Ibn Ezra.
Yeah, this is Ibn Ezra. Yeah. Awkward, he was in the room. And what was I going to say? And he'll say like that's just a drush, or like or he'll just say that like it's not the he's a pshat guy. Yeah. Right. Okay. So they are sometimes outside the circle and sometimes in the circle, because
sometimes just accidentally get there.
Yeah, you can get closer and closer to the truth if you just had the pesukim. Let's say like certain mitzvos, let's say like Shabbos. If you try to figure out Shabbos just from the pesukim, you're not going to get very far. If you try to figure out korbanos from the pesukim, you would get much further, because there's a much greater proportion of the halachos of korbanos that are openly stated in the pesukim, that you could like hobble together, So, or certain things you can infer from logic, but sometimes they just totally miss, they're outside of the Torah altogether. And that's depicted as outside of the circle, because at least I guess the first derech people, at least they are giving insight into the pesukim, but just not important insight, nothing that actually contributes to how you use it. So that's like the circumference. But if you're outside the circle, you could be giving like totally false things. Okay, so I think we're going to spend the entire day on the third derech. And what I've decided to do is we're learning the Hakdama of Ibn Ezra to his main פירוש on Bereishis. He also has the second פירוש on Bereishis, which he didn't finish, which they call in the Torah time shiטה אחרת. So in yours, it's in the back. And he has another statement of the 5 groups. And I like some aspects of the second one better. So we're going to read the first one and then read the second one. it's going to not be drastically different, but it'll clarify the idea. Then he has a short little thing where he talks about the same subject in his essay in the Aseres of Dibros, and then one more small little reference. Okay, so I think we'll try to get focus on this Derek tonight. Okay, and this is the spicy one, as I said. Okay, so I didn't get the English, but I don't think I need the English for this one. There's no astronomy here. Okay, so I think in our packet, what page are we on? Or in the Torah sign? I don't know if mine has page numbers. We are page Ches.
Question.
Or page 4, yeah.
The
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. All right. Haderech hashlishi derech choshech va'afela v'hi michutz lekav ha'agula. So the third path is dark and obscure, and it is on the outside of the circle. It's outside of the circle. V'hem habodaim milibam l'chol hadvarim sodos ve'emunasam ki atoros v'hamishpatim chidos. So they bodaim, they imagine or they fabricate in their minds the notion that everything is allegorical. Here by sodos means allegorical. The emunasam, and their belief is that the Toros and mishpatim are allegories. Okay, so they take the mitzvos non-literally.
It's like Jordan Peterson.
Yes, it's like Jordan Peterson. Yeah.
He has some good ideas though.
Yeah, it is. It's just that's not what the mitzvos are. And you could look. There are people in our Masorah who do this, but with an acknowledgement of the fact that they're engaging in drush. I think there's something. Rama makes this statement somewhere. He makes this statement in the end of the when he's talking about the Christians and the Muslims. And he indicates that the Muslims have that approach about Chumash, which I've never seen that in any Muslim writings. But he says, I don't know which Muslim philosophers he's referring to, but what do you call it? You guys don't look up Muslim writings in the Al-Farabi and all the guys that Rama and Rabag like? No, there's a good stuff there. Yeah. You have to be able to say it to be able to learn it. No one can pronounce the name. But he says that the Christians hold that the mitzvos were replaced and we're not chayav in them anymore. And he says the Muslims held that they were ramazim. They're just ramazim. So I don't know.
They don't hold the Torah.
They do. They hold it by Moshe, Jesus, and then Muhammad was the final one. And so they don't hold that the Torah is a reliable account when it comes to certain things like, Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yishmael, right? That they held that they got the Torah got that wrong. But they do hold that it's a divine document, from what I understand.
Oh, really? Even though the Quran, even though a lot of this stuff is wrong.
Yeah. I don't know what their shita is about Torah Min HaShamayim in terms of every single pasuk. It clearly doesn't seem to be like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
But there was okay.
Yeah. So I've seen people say that this is a polemic against that approach. I'm not sure which group he's targeting. First group he's targeting the Gaonim. Okay, I mean he says that explicitly. He lists names of Gaonim. Second group he's targeting the Tzedukim. This third group I'm not exactly sure. So just to be aware. Okay. V'lo arich.
I think he's going after the Gaonim in the first approach.
He says that a lot of the Gaonim wrote Pirush that were nothing except for just spinning their wheels on these facts and stuff.
Really?
Yeah. He named them. I thought. Wasn't he making fun of their names?
Right. Yeah.
Shmuel ben Chofni, Asaf Roch b'Chofnav. Right, just grasping the wind. Shmuel ben Chofni is footnote 19. Gaon b'Sura. Chosanu Shur of High Gaon. Ooh.
Saji going also.
Yeah, Sagan also.
Wow.
He was the Shmuel ben Chofni is the father-in-law of Rav Hagon.
Oh yeah.
Going after the big.
So these are actual going.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Doesn't mean they know how to learn, according to him. Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, he didn't hold back that Ibn Ezra. Yeah, and if you got a easily mockable last name, then that's going to be the route he's going to take. Yeah.
He's creative. He'll find a way.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a good thing we don't learn those guys in general, because that would make our learning very shaky. If he's
because Chas v'Shalom that Ramban ever criticizes Rashi or Abravanel ever says that the Rabag is a cancer that needs to be cut out. Yeah. It's part of the story, Yeah. Okay. So he said, the reason why I brought that up is because he does not mention names here, unlike in the other two drachim. Yeah. All right.
Oh, he does in second?
Not at least in this iteration.
You can't rhyme those names.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, v'lo a'arich. Oh, he says v'lo a'arich lahashiv alehem ki am toei levathem. I will not go on at length to refute them because they are a nation of erring hearts. Right? They're just they're beyond all hope. Yeah.
That's an indication that it's a different nation. Like he's talking about like people outside of
No.
Torah.
Am toei levathem. Where do we know that
That's
phrase
us.
from? That's us,
Yeah,
right?
it's us.
Yeah, we say that in a couple of Shabbos. Always amuses me how the Chazanim sing it so
I
sweetly.
know. It's one of the most ironic things.
Yeah.
It's almost like
Arba'im
Hashem
shana
is
akut
ironic.
bedor. For 40 years, I fought with them,
Yeah.
with a generation of Amar Am Toy Levahim. I said that their minds are straying. Toy Levahim. V'him lo yadu udorahai, and they don't know my ways. Asher nishbati v'api. Yeah, and which I swore in my anger not to bring them into the land of their.
Yeah.
And he's singing with all the heart and soul. Yeah.
Also, Hashem Bagad.
Singing in Eicha at least, you know.
Right.
And Vidui. Like, Hashem Bagad.
Yeah,
It's like a
Sound
sweet
a
tune.
little-
it is. Yeah.
We slander.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, if you say it in English, it's if you sing it in English, it's not so good. Okay, ki hadvarim al.
That's why.
So he actually means what he says. He doesn't go on to refute them, but he gives them credit, and this is what we're going to focus on. Ki al hadvarim. So ki dvarim al dvarim. Sorry, ki hadvarim al tzedek lo chalku bilti b'davar echad tzadku. Okay, so I don't know exactly how to translate the first part, but they don't. They're not right about anything except for one thing. They got one thing right. Asher kol davar mitzvah katana o gedola b'kaf mozne halev tihye shekula. So every mitzvah, okay, whether small or great, should be weighed on the scales of the mind. Okay. Ki yesh belev dea mechachmas yoshev kedem netua, because there is in the mind knowledge that was implanted by the yoshev kedem. I think that's God, by the one who sits eternally. Okay, so there's a certain type, and we have to figure out what he means by mind here. Okay, or by das. God implanted a certain type of das in our minds from way before. Yoshev kedem. God's the one who's eternal. V'im hadas lo tispol hadavar.
Wait, what's in the tool?
Netua implanted. Yeah. Okay, here comes some funny grammar here, or word structure. I think he made this word up. V'im hadas lo tispol hadavar o yashchis asher behergeshos yitavar. Okay, so I think the footnote 86 says that yitavar is supposed to be yisbarer. Just chopping off one of the ratios to make it rhyme. Okay, he's a grammar guy. He can do stuff, and we'll just believe him. He says if the da'as does not tolerate the matter, or if it or if it literally destroys or corrupts that which the senses have discerned. Okay, az yivakish lo sod ki shikul hadas hu hayesod. Okay, then you should look for an allegory, because shikul hadas is the foundation. Okay.
Oh, yeah, like the Ram gives that example of like the heart, like cut.
That comes from him. Yeah. And Rama mentioned also, but he's the one who goes into depth on it. That's what we're going to focus on. Yeah. So any indication what you think he means by shikul hadas or das in this context so far? I don't know if it's enough to put it together based on what we've seen. Well, he's saying if the das doesn't tolerate it, and he's saying God planted das in the mind from the beginning, and you have to weigh it on the scales of the das. So like how's he using? So like you're saying analytical thinking?
Yeah.
Could be analytical thinking. I feel like there's no shikul in analytical thinking. Shikul is weighing. That's like a subjective, relative thing. Yeah.
It's more like, it might be like there's no like, you can't like disprove that this is a shot, but like it just seems crazy. Yeah.
Okay. So the term that I'm going to come up with here, and then if we can refine this, or if you disagree with it, then we'll run it through. Rational intuition. Okay. There's a certain like rationality of like being able to tell when something doesn't make sense, and that's something you have to weigh. Like you're saying, you can't like definitively prove it, and I think you'll see this from his examples. And he's saying that every mitzvah has to be weighed on that scale, and it can't go against that type of rational intuition. Now, this is not to be confused with like Korach common sense reasoning of, if I have a talis that's cool tchelis, then like, it should be putted from tzitzis. He'll give examples. Yeah.
The translation I was thinking of was like feeling it out, which is kind of like.
Yeah, it's a type of intuition, right? Yeah.
But whose intuition are we talking about? Like, Is it everyone just comes to?
That's another good question. Yeah. Okay. So let's go further. Kilo nasna haTorah asher ein da'as lo v'hamalach bein adam uvein elokav hu sichlo. Okay, I do appreciate the poetry because the Torah was not given to a person who doesn't have knowledge, who doesn't have das, and the malach between man and his God is his intellect, right? And that fits into our definition of malach as being that which does the malacha of God. So like the intermediary, so to speak, that allows you to relate to God or allows you to fulfill God's will or allows you to like have knowledge of God or whatever it is, that's your seichel. V'chol davar shehadas lo tachachishenu kipshuto umishpato nefarashenu. So anything that the das does not undermine, right, does not contradict, we explain it according to its pshat and its mishpat. And I think mishpat here means is the rules of grammar. Okay, we explain it according to like the straight meaning of like the content and the grammar. Okay, and again, just to emphasize here, he's not saying that you do this if it doesn't make sense. He's saying if it's machachish your das, if your das can't tolerate it. Okay, that's different than just saying like, I don't know why we do shatnez, get rid of it, you know. Okay, v'na'amidenu al maskunto v'na'amin kikacha amito, and we will set it up in its proper foundations, in its proper way, its proper qualities, and we will believe that such is its truth. V'lo negashesh, I don't know how to say that. Ir ki ivrim ulfi tzachenu nimshoch advarim v'lama nahapoch hanirim l'nistarim. And we shouldn't grope the wall like blind people. That's like a reference to this week's parsha, right? Stricken with blindness and they're groping the wall trying to find the door, the Anshe Sodom. We've drawn on matters based on our need. Why should we convert the evident into the hidden? Meaning, why should we take things that make sense in their pshat and convert them into hidden secrets? Okay, that's a rhetorical question. V'im yesh makom l'shem be'emes nichbarim. What's nichbarim? 91. Hasod mechubar el pshat hanir. Okay, so if there are places where, which in truth are, I think composite would be the thing. Meaning, let's say like Gan Eden, right, where there's like a literal level that's true and a sod. Ushneim ne'mani brurim. Both of them are trustworthy. Mehim begufos u'mehem machshavos. Of them bodies and of them thoughts. He's talking about there. Kimilas basar v'orlas libos, like umalta basar v'orlas libos, like the circumcision of the flesh and the foreskin of the hearts. Okay, so I think there he's saying that I'm going to get the English. Wait, did I get English? No, I looked at the Sefer and said I got to bring that.
People on Zoom.
Yeah.
Oh, so I got to tell you this in case you. What was that from the chair? Oh, yeah.
Just kidding, Spa.
These things are great.
Yeah. The wait, what's that doing over there? Was that there the whole time?
Yeah.
Two of them.
Oh.
Put one on the chair.
I suggest if you are a book buying person, if you ever see a copy of this that's cheap, then you should get it. So I got 4 volumes, everything except Bamidbar on Amazon for $50 a volume. It's expensive because it's an old translation. Bamidbar, for some reason on Amazon, you can buy it for only upwards of $900. Bamidbar, like,
Why?
I don't know what happened. Like,
Really good explanation.
yeah, is that where all the sodas are? Like, yeah. So if you ever see a Bamidbar, like, and you don't want to buy it, just let me know because I've been on the lookout.
You buy used for cheaper?
No, that's used.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's used. Yeah. It's not in print. It's not in print anymore.
Used books is great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Okay,
Is it
so
still, like, used textbook websites?
I've checked a couple, but I haven't like gone thoroughly through stuff. Okay, so he says, now if there are places with 2 meanings, both of which are clearly true, one referring to the body and the other to the mind, such as the circumcision of the flesh and the circumcision of the heart. Oh, so that's right. So not 2 in 1, meaning you do take circumcision of the flesh literally, but then circumcision of the heart you don't.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, even though it's using the same verb.
Right.
Okay. And if there's a secret meaning, here's where he alludes to this. V'im, uv'eit hadas sod yinam, and the secret of the tree of knowledge will be pleasant. Gam hadvarim hem emes kamashman, but those things are also true according to their literal interpretation. V'im yesh ish lo yachilu ze rayonav, imu chacham yifakeach es enav. So if there's a person who's he can't contain his thoughts, or their thoughts can't contain him. Oh, he says, now if anyone cannot accept what I've said, if he be wise, let him open his eyes. That's a funny Gan Eden fun there, right? Kiyimsa betoldos rabim notzrim k'nechirim v'halashon v'haraglayim l'shnei devarim. In nature too, we find things that serve more than one purpose, such as the nostrils, the tongue, and the legs that serve two purposes. Running and skipping. I don't know. Yeah.
Even you smell.
I don't know. Yeah. Okay. So his point though is he's saying that there are things in Torah that are understood literally and allegorically. Okay. And then that's it. That's all he says about this.
Taste and see.
Yeah. Okay. So now let's look at the Shita Aseres, where he says the same thing but in different words. All right. So this is, if you flip through, you see the Shita Aseres, and it's actually in the Shita Aseres he puts this derech first. Switches numbers around.
Wait, so this is totally outside the circle.
That's totally outside the circle, yeah. Except they got the one thing right, which I guess if they, that sounds like more like methodologically they're getting one thing right, which is that, if something doesn't make sense, then you do interpret certain things as allegory, allegorical. Okay, so you see it here?
This one?
Shita Aseres. I don't think ours has the page number on here. Yeah. The one before Shin. Okay. So he says, Nu'um Avraham ben Meir Hasafardi. What?
299.
299, yeah. Hine Bisamim? Bashamayim Edi Hayodea Sodi Kibholi Bivol Meori Efar Shatar Baodi Al Pi Asher Tasi Gadi Imie Elokim Imadi Va'achal B'Shem Asher Ein L'Tchila So Tchila Va'ashlim B'Shem Ein L'Gdula So Tichla. Oh, that's nice.
That's nice double run.
Yeah, right. So he says, I will begin in the name of the one who has no beginning, who's right, that's God, and I will conclude with the name of the one whose greatness has no limit. V'hu yanakeni mikol shagios shlo yihu b'einai libi noraos. May he cleanse me of all errors, and it shouldn't be in my eyes, in the eyes of my mind, two wonders. Bein batam, bein b'derech mivta, ki ein adam asher lo yechata. Koheles reference. Whether in meaning or in the manner of pronunciation. I said pronunciation. I erred there. Because there's no person who doesn't sin. Why am I looking at this here? I have this on the computer. Something felt strange.
I need the blue light.
Yeah.
I looked up that one of like the usual websites that I
Yeah.
It was $3,000.
What? What is up with that? Like, did they accidentally print $100 bills in the back of the okay. Anyway, Lufi, yeah, right. So same thing is, before I explain anything, I'm going to say that the truth is like a point in the middle of the circle. Okay, here we go. Oh, this is where I got it from. Wait, no, is this not? Yeah. Okay. This is not where I got it from. This he said, he does say a group here. Okay, he says, "Agas hi derech chachmei ha'arelim." Yeah, who do you think that is? Yeah, the chachmei ha'arelim. Does it say in the footnote? Yeah, that's what I would have guessed. So it says in footnote 2. It says B'Hagdama Aleph, Klomer B'Hagdama L'Pirush of Avram ben Ezra HaMakubal, Shia B'Yadeno, that's the one we were reading. Hi derech HaShlishis, Hi derech Shel HaNotzrim, Christians. Shelo Hivinu Es HaPshat, U'Pirushu B'derech HaAllegoria, right? And they explain it allegorically. Yeah, all right, so I don't know which Christians did this, okay? Because I thought the Christians just hold that Jesus came and we don't need to do the mitzvahs anymore.
Right.
I didn't know they took it allegorically. All right, Ha'omrim ki kol ha'Torah chidos u'mashalim. They say that the entire Torah is riddles and allegories. Kol ha'dvarim shehem b'sefer Bereishis nemarim.
Don't they hold this doctrinal literal? Every single.
Yeah, right. I've never seen them take homosexuality as a mashal. Right? They don't like that one. They say is literal.
Yeah, and that's a big sticking point about the Bible. They say.
Yeah, right. And creation. Oh, is that what you just said? Shehem b'sefer Bereishis nemar? No, I don't know what he means by that. Okay, gam kacha kol mitzvos v'achukim hayisharim kol echad kfi machashavto ze yosif ze yigra pa'am lehetiv u'pa'am lahara. Okay, so all the mitzvos and the chukim that are upright, each one interprets according to his mind, his thought. This one adds, this one subtracts, sometimes for good, sometimes for bad. Ki hashiva amim remez l'dvarim ne'lamim. They say that the 7 nations are allegories for hidden things. Never heard this before. Shem beguf adam samim, that were placed in the body of man. Isha ki tazria remez lebeis tefilasam, like their church. Isha ki tazria is a reference to their church. I got to get my hands on this parish. It'll just be interesting to read, like, maybe on these long Friday nights, like after some brandy, like just pop open the Christian allegories and just make fun of the.
Is that an issue of all tips all high?
Isha ki tazria. Umispar yimei hatuma Bereishis. Okay, fine. So I guess they include the days of her tuma in that. Gam mispar hashvatim remez leminyan ha-talmidim hashatim. Oh, that one you could see, right? That is it. The 12 apostles. Yeah. Shatim, is that like a different word for fools? Yeah. Nusach acher hashotim, or hasotim min haderech hanachona, or the deviants. Remez leshlichehem. Is that the Hebrew that they use for apostles? Shlichehem.
Yes, sounds like.
Yeah, I don't know. Okay. V'chol ele divrei tohu. So it is interesting, by the way, in this Hakdama, calling out the Christians, and then the first one he didn't mention them at all.
Right.
That's like an interesting editorial decision, like.
Could it have been censored?
He was not in a place. I guess it depends on when he wrote this commentary, because he was all over the place. He died in London, by the way.
London?
In London,
Really?
yeah, that's what. Yeah.
For some reason, that's cool.
yeah.
Imagining like stagecoaches.
Yeah.
Him in a top hat.
And imagining like British people talking in Old English, like was that in? Was how old is Old English?
Look this up English. There were Bali Tosos who spoke.
Yeah.
English.
Yeah. There's
at least that old.
Yeah. I've seen a picture of that.
Tosos Chachmei Anglia.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Spoke English.
Yeah. Strange.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Like older than Shakespeare English?
Yeah, way older, right? I mean, because Shakespeare is already like
15.
I assume that's like considered like the
Middle?
sort of the beginning of like a new English wave. Yeah. I don't know. Anyway, b'chol ele divrei tohu hevel nidaf ein kamohu. Okay, all of these things are words of nothingness. It's cast off hevel, and there's nothing like it. Emes lafarsh kol mitzvah v'davar umila kasher him kesuvim. The truth is to explain every mitzvah and word and statement and word as it's written. Im himet al hadas krovim, as long as they're karov ladas, right? As long as they are in line or close to the rationality. Gam nachon hu lios ledvarim sodos. It's also okay to have things as allegories. V'him ba'atzmam emes gam chidos, but only if they are themselves true and also allegories. Kedavar gan eden ve'etz hadas. Okay, fine, like Gan Eden. V'ti chachmas lev im chachmas mipi av nishmaas. That's a little bit of a false rhyme. And it will be a wisdom of the heart with wisdom from the mouth of the Father who is listened to. I don't know what that means. Va'ed haneman b'chol pirushenu hu seichel halev shenata b'kirbenu kidoshenu. Okay, so the true witness in all of our commentary is the intellect of the mind or of the heart, which was implanted in us by our Holy One. I assume Hakedoshenu is our God, is our Holy One. If you contradict the mind, that's like contradicting the senses. Because the Torah was given to people of mind. Okay, so the same 2 criteria from last time is if it contradicts the senses or it goes against like inherent rationality, which, by the way, the shiur that I gave on Thursday 2 weeks ago about the Mabul, I mentioned Sadigon's 4 times you take the Torah non-literally, or if it goes against the senses, if it contradicts the mind, if the pesukim contradict each other, or if you have a Torah Shabbat Peh interpretation that overrides the Torah Shabbat. And he's definitely not going to deny those other 2. Right. Okay, meaning like if you have a contradiction in the pesukim, he explains it, and he's definitely not denying the Torah Shabbat Peh one, because that is why he rejected the second derech. So Ibn Ezra and Sadigon seem to be on the same page with regards to when you take the pasuk not literally, at least in their categories. Okay, the im matzanu kasav b'torah she'ein hadas sovelas. If we found, this is where it gets different. If we find written in the Torah a pasuk that the mind does not tolerate, nosif onasakin kafi hayecholes al derech mishpat halashon. So then we must add or fix according to our ability by way of grammar, language. Okay, right? In other words, maybe you're reading the pasuk wrong. Okay, and there's a different way to read it. Asher chakak Adam Harishon, which Adam Harishon established. I guess that's the Shita that he holds, that Adam Harishon established the rules of grammar. Okay, great.
Makes sense.
Yeah,
It's reasonable.
Yeah, I mean, he's like he could call the shots. He's not talking to anyone else. Gam b'mitzvos na'aseh. Even in mitzvos, we do this. Okay, this is where it starts to get a little spicy. Im hadavar kamashma'o ladas lo yitachen. If the matter is not possible according to the das. Now here's where it goes into the maltimus oros levavchem. Kamo maltimus oros levavchem. As it says, you should circumcise the foreskin of your heart, or as a Rav says, you shall surgically remove your pericardium. Because I guess there is a foreskin of the heart, a membrane of the heart. Yeah. Ki al ha-mitzvos kasuv asher lo. So listen to his arguments now. Ki al ha-mitzvos kasuv asher yase osam ha'adam v'chai bahem. Because about the mitzvos it is written, that man should do them and live by them. Okay, so that's number one. V'od ki Hashem tzivash lo lirtzoch acherim v'ich yitzave lirtzoch es nafsho ke'achzarim. God says don't murder people. So how can it be that we murder our own souls like the cruel? Okay.
Why is that like the cruel?
Achzarim.
I'm saying, why is that the cruel? Like why is it?
I assume it'd be like we'd say like to brutally murder ourselves. You know.
Interesting.
Yeah. Gam. Now this is the one that I think is the most compelling argument. Gam is moso tavo terem mulo es orlas levavo. Also, you're going to die before you finish circumcising your heart. Yeah. V'im yishal shoel ehi tachin lios devarim lahashmaos oznaim ulosodos nichbadim. How can it be, if a person's going to ask, how can it be that there are things that that are that to the hearing of the ear are allegories, or when there's allegories. Now, the person is like a literalist and says, how can you say that there's allegories in the Torah? He says, Hatshuva zos tiferes divrei Elokim chaim al kol chachmei hagoyim. So that is an advantage, that a beauty that the words of the living God have over all the chachmei hagoyim. Shechibru sfarim reshumim. I don't know what reshumim here means. I don't know if it means like that they wrote famous books or books that made an impression. V'ham mashalim api ivrim ilimim v'darchei Hashem batoldos adam yorenu drachim ki ha'af shehu hanichirim nivra ba'avur arba'at tzreichen. Oh, now the nostrils have 4 functions. Didn't he say 2 last time?
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. Okay. Maybe we'll find.
Each one has 2 functions.
And if there's a math guy, he loves that kind of stuff. All right. And he says, he spells them out. Linshov haruach al hamoach, to breathe the air into the brain, because your brain needs air. L'moch harosh ulahorid lechaso, and to bring down its moisture. Right, you gotta, because that was the thing, right? Is that a dry brain meant that you can think with a clear mind and analytically. This is like Galen's not Galen, is it Galen? The 4 humors?
Oh. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Right.
Yeah, and if you got a moist brain, then you're all like lethargic in your thoughts and like slow and bad memory.
It reminds me of like the Rambam, where he says people have like dark blood or like light blood, something like that.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean this is the theory of the 4 humors, that you had 4 fluids in your body and like they determine your different characteristics.
Wow.
Yeah. Okay. And ulahariach bo. Okay, and to smell with uliyofi tuchunaso, and for the beauty of the nose. That's a function. Right. Because you'd look really weird without noses. Yeah.
Right.
Windows wear glasses.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, it's true.
Right.
V'hine derech hagoyim megula. We gotta amend the commentary here. V'hine derech hagoyim megula shehem mechus la'agula. Oh, he calls the derech hagoyim. So he says, and behold, the methods of the goyim is exposed and it's outside of the circle. Okay.
No, what? This method.
This method, yeah. Okay.
Savage. I can just picture him like grinning as he writes it.
Yeah.
God, that's a zinger.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, the line I told you, in the Hakdama here, they have his poetry. So I said this, but I got to read the thing about his poverty because it's just so funny. He says, hold on. Yeah. I cannot become rich. The fates are against me. Were I a dealer in shrouds, no man would ever die. Ill-starred was my birth. Unpropitious the planets. Were I a seller of candles, the sun would never set. Yeah. Okay. Next source we're going to go to is the one where he's most explicit about how to apply this derech. Okay, so this is in the Aseres Dibros in one of the long essay thingies. Here you go. Here you go. I didn't attach it because it was not a scan. Okay. So this is I forgot where it is in the thing. You'll see Dibur Maskal Anochi, and if you look it up in the thing. Dibur Arishan Anochi. Okay, so this is the intro to mitzvos. Da ki kol ha-mitzvos heim al shnei drachim. There are two types of mitzvos. Haderech ha'achas mitzvos sheim netuos me'Hashem b'leiv kol ish da'as v'hem rabim. So the first one is mitzvos that are implanted by Hashem in the mind of every rational person, and these are many. Ve'ein ba'aseres hadvarim rak hashabbos levada she'ena bichlal shikl hadas. And there's no mitzvos in the Aseres Dibros that are not in this category except for Shabbos.
That are not in the category.
So this is what we would loosely call mishpatim, right? But mitzvos that are in line with your with common sense or with rationality, right?
Yeah.
And the Aseres Dibros, he's saying that none of them go against that, except Shabbos. Yeah. Okay. I mean, you could argue about whether, certainly kibbud av v'em you could say is in this category, and adultery and kidnapping. I guess you could argue about Shavuot Shav. Right, but I think you can make a good argument for the fact that it's one of these categories. Okay, al kain, therefore, here's his proof. Kol maskil b'chol am v'lashon modim b'hem. Any intelligent person in any nation and language admits that these are good. Ki hem netuim b'shekol hadas, because they're implanted within the scales of our mind. Ve'alehem ein lohosif ein ligroa, you can't add or subtract them. Ve'hem sheshamar Avram im mitzvos acheres nosafos. So there he drops his shita about how, of course, he does not hold that Avram Rishon kept all the mitzvos. So he says he kept these mitzvos and some other ones like bris milah. I don't know what he holds about shacharis. So like Avram Tikkun shacharis.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, right. So this is the question: like, do you hold that the Avos did all the mitzvos or not? So here he's saying,
definitely derbanan.
It is derabanan, but the machlokas in the Gemara is whether the Avos set it up or whether Anshe Knesset set it up based on the korbanos.
Right.
And then it ends up concluding that like both of them are true. Like that the Avos set it up, but then the Anshe Knesset like established it as a chiyuv based on the korbanos.
Right.
Okay. V'Hashem l'nasan Torah rach la'anshe hadas u'mi she'ein lo das ein lo Torah. That's one to lobby to put on the top of shuls, over the Aron Kodesh. Yeah. So the Torah was only given to people with knowledge, and someone who has no mind has no Torah. And again, das here doesn't mean like intellectual faculty. He means like rationality. That's how he's been using das up until now. All right. V'aderech hashenis mitzvos ne'elamos. The second one are hidden mitzvos. Ve'inan mifurashos lama tzivu. So it's not explained why they were commanded. So this is what we would call chukim, right? That the reasons are concealed. V'chalila chalila shetiye mitzvah achas mehen machacheshes hadas. However you want to translate chalila. God forbid, heaven forfend, that there should be any one of the mitzvos that contradicts rationality in terms of the reason why it was commanded. Rather, we are obligated to keep everything that we've been commanded. Whether the sod here sod does not mean allegory. Here sod means reason. Okay, clearly I think, right? Whether the reason has been revealed to us or not. Now here's okay. So this is where it gets tricky. So if you find a mitzvah that contradicts the shikol hadas, okay. So then it's not proper for us to believe that it is as it seems. We should investigate the words of our predecessors to understand what is its meaning. Maybe it's a derech mashal. Okay, so first you find a mitzvah that contradicts rationality. Okay, like which he's going to use as the example. First step is you look at the Mefarshim and the Bali Masor who came before you, and see if they say that it's a derech mashal. Okay. And if you don't find anyone who says that, nevakesh. Funny says if you don't find one of them who says that, right? Like meaning, let's say like a bunch of people say that it is literal, but like it doesn't make sense to you, and you find one that that says that it's an allegory, so then boom. Okay, but then if that doesn't work, so then you should try to search and investigate with all of your ability. Maybe you can fix it. Now, what I think he means by that is fix it in the sense he said in that Hakdama is interpret it in a way that makes sense. Okay, like grammatically or linguistically. And if we can't, we leave it as it is, and we admit that we don't know what it is. So even in the realm of mitzvah, right, if the mitzvah contradicts shikol hadas and you don't find anyone in the Masorah who's commented on this, and you can't fix it like linguistically in a way where you can implement it as mitzvah, then you just leave it and say we don't know what it is. Okay, so like which apparently, if he's using this as an example, I mean, is there no chazal that says explicitly that this is a mashal? I'm not sure. He's the same phrase here, right? Did God command us not to murder other people? How can he command us to murder ourselves? Yedanu das brura ki kol mitzvot she'enan chayos mishikol das sod echad yesh l'chol echad mehen. You should know that of all the mitzvot that are not chaya from shikol das, meaning like the chukim, so then there's a reason for all of them. Im ne'elam mimenu, even if it's hidden from us. Now, before we go on, this is difficult, okay, because there are certain things we can all admit that circumcising the foreskin of your heart is not something you take literally, right? But the question is, like, there are certain cases where you can argue that it's not rational, but we know that it's a mitzvah. For example, if God's saying don't kill yourself with he does say Yeharag val Yavor by Kiddush Hashem, right? So this kind of puts you into a quandary. So like, and obviously we hold that that's literal, you know? So like, you know, some of his arguments don't play out for that. Like, for example, you know, that's not one that, like, you can't use the you're going to die before you do the mitzvah one, but like, you know, maybe you can argue that like human beings shouldn't take their own life because God created man in the Telem Lakim, you know, et cetera, you know, and it never says anywhere in the pasuk explicitly, right, that you should Yihar Gal Yavor, that's Torah Bal Peh, you know. So like, what do we do with that? Like, why does that not fall into this category?
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah. I mean, if you have a Masorah for...
Yeah, I think you have to say that in that case, and that was his first step, is that you see how it's been passed down, and that unanimously is the interpretation of the mitzvah, you know? So he says, though, but it's an interesting category here because he says there's not one that goes against shikol hadas. So if you're in this position where you feel like that's irrational, but now you know that is the correct interpretation, so then you're kind of in this weird position because you're not he says, you know, for this other one, nanicha ka'asherhi v'noda ki lo yadanu mahu. Here, what you're doing is you're saying you're not leaving it as is. You're saying, okay, I'm going to keep it, but you're saying I don't know how this makes sense, you know. So it's not as ironclad as he makes it to say that like you never do a mitzvah that's connected shikol hadas. Theoretically, that situation could come up. Look, people say that about like the genocidal mitzvahs, you know. Like killing Amalek and the Shiva Ammi. You know, now, I'm not saying that I think that that's against shikol hadas, but there are people who say that. But that's another case where like it's unanimous that the mitzvah is meant to be literal. You know, so like he makes it sound like it's just very neat categories here, but it's in practice, like, you know, you're gonna have arguments with people about whether something goes against shikol hadas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, is he talking about in terms of like interpreting like the story parts also? Or just only
here he's only talking about mitzvos. In the Hakdama, he did mention like he kind of lumped both of them in the same category, right? That he said that there, you know, he talked about like the Eitz Hadas and Gan Eden and everything. There's just no resistance to saying that, like there, if it goes against shikol hadas, then you take it as an allegory. Like he doesn't say like, oh, check Chazal and like try to like, you know, fix it with the lashon, you know, yeah. Okay, I included all this because I wasn't sure if it was, I don't think it's relevant. Just that last point, I don't think I need to include this here. Okay, one more place where he talks about the same principle here, which is, first of all, I figured it'd be good to just include his פירוש Maltimus Oros Levavichem. We're talking about it so much, right? So just that one pasuk here. Maltimus Oros Levavichem, what does it mean? Lihisrachik me'ataivos ha'avos ha'kavedos orla. So to distance ourselves from the thick desires that are heavy, like orla. Yeah. Now I don't know if he means, I don't know which desires he means, if it's just like all taivas, or if he's saying, and he's calling all of them thick, or if he means like specific taivos, like THICC, you know, Gami Takin Leos Pirusha Latahir Halev Aj Yavin Hemes, thick, like in the modern usage. Yeah, like that, those kind of typos. Gami Takin Leos Pirusha Latahir Halev Aj Yavin Hemes. Also, it's possible to explain that it means to purify the mind until it understands the truth.
Not
Yeah. You're trying to work out the grammar? Yeah. 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 So Onkelos says this also, by the way. He says the first Pirush that remove the he says remove the tipshus halev, the foolishness of the heart. I guess that's not exactly like this. That's the second one I meant, not the first one. Yeah. Okay. One more, and then I think we'll have a full picture here. So this is on one of the parts of Tefillin, right? V'haya l'cha la'os al yadecha. This is in Shemos Yud Gimel. Okay. V'haya l'cha yesh cholkim al avosenu hakadoshim. Okay, so there are those who argue with our avos. I think here means like the Masorah, the volume, the Chazal. She'amar ki la'os ulazikaron al derech ki lidias chen heim l'roshecha va'anakim l'gargarosecha. Okay, so I've never heard this argument before, but they say that when it says that it shall be as la'os al yadecha l'tuzvos beinenecha, they say it's like mishle, which it says mishle should be a garland of grace on your head and a necklace on your neck, and that's not literal, right? So they say that they deny the mitzvah of tefillin. Okay, gam uchsatam al mezuzos pesecha kamo kasvim al loach libecha, blaming everything on mishle. Also, write it on the doorpost of your house is like inscribe it on the tablet of your heart, which mishle says, which is a mashal. Okay. Umahu sheyi laos lezikaron sheyihi shagar b'ficha. So what does it mean that it should be as a sign and a remembrance? Is that it should be secure in your mouth. Ki biyad chazaka hotiach Hashem mitzrayim, that God took you out of Egypt. Okay, so that's the claim. Okay, that the tefillin is not literal. The ein say derech nechana. That's not a good proper path. Ki betchilas hasefer kasuv mishle shlomo. Okay, in the beginning, I guess they were dafka bringing proofs from mishle. So in the beginning of the sefer, it says these are the mishle shlomo. It says it's not literal. V'hine kol ma shehizkir hu derech mashal. Everything he says is derech mashal. V'in kasuv b'torah hu derech mashal chalila. It doesn't say in the Torah that it's derech mashal. Rav hu kamashmao. It's the way it's literal meaning. Therefore, we should not take it out of its pshat. Because in its literal meaning, it does not contradict shikol hadas. He loves that. Yeah. If he got a tattoo over his heart, I would say that we need to fix it according to the das, according to rationality. Amar Rav Moshe HaKohen, that's someone he always quotes. I don't know who it is though. Kiyad barov hamikra hi ha'smalis. Oh, then he just says what the halachos are. Okay, so I include that because it was a just an example of someone like trying to pull a muscle move and him saying, no, if it doesn't contradict your mind, I don't care if you have like another way to explain it. If it doesn't contradict your das, then like you don't take it as a muscle.
That's an interesting like midrash and the pasuk. Like it's a good idea.
Yeah, like Jordan Peterson.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
His New Testament stuff is pretty good too. Not gonna lie.
Yeah.
Huh?
Well, we gotta see what he's gonna do on Mishle, right?
Oh, I saw that. I was gonna ask you.
Yeah.
It'll be good.
Or it'll be really bad.
I think it'll be far from shot or drosh for that matter, but I think the ideas will probably be good.
Yeah.
His ideas are good.
Yes and no. Yeah, he criticizes people for being ideological, and he's very ideal. He's an ideological. Yeah. Okay, yeah. Yes. If you watch the I think the thing that exposed him the most, I love watching interviews with him, but the thing that exposed the most how not organic and natural of a thinker he is his debate with Slavoj Žižek.
I was gonna watch that. I don't even know what you just said.
Yeah, I sneezed. It's got a bunch of like little Yeah.
Russian.
It's SLAVOJZIZEK.
Is it about like Marxism?
Yeah.
So I was gonna watch it and I saw that.
It's good, but when you watch it for the intellectual profile, because you'll see it's like you see this Jordan Peterson who is like has got these edifices of like premises and stuff in his mind and like is applying that, and not that that's inherently bad. Aristotle does the same thing, like Ram does the same thing, like any thinker is going to do that. But then compared to him, Slavoj Žižek is just like he comes across as just like thinking about stuff with a fresh mind, and being much more intellectually like open. I don't know. I'm not saying like I'm not poskening on like his soul is this or his soul is that, but like it's just interesting to watch.
Who's that guy?
The second guy, he's another like philosopher, like a modern philosopher, and social critic. Yeah.
You see Jordan Peterson with Sam Harris.
I saw most of it. I don't think I saw all of it. Yeah, I don't remember that one as clearly because I think that was when I first watched some Jordan Peterson stuff. Yeah. And the other thing I'm worried about is he's I don't like his writing.
What do you not like about it?
Writing style. He's so much more eloquent in speech, but the stuff I've read from him just is not as clear.
I really like his tone in writing actually.
Oh yeah,
it's very natural tone.
I found it obnoxious. What I've read, but I haven't read a lot though, so I don't know.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah.
Do you think the Ibn Ezra would object to me making a Michelin necklace?
He would squint his eyes at you and be like, show me your non-Sudoku card, or non-Christian card. Okay, let's go on to the next derech, I guess. I mean, unless there's questions here about his approach. I mean, it's straightforward, but in practice, again, it's a little bit more difficult. The main thing is very clear, though, is that you take every pasuk literally unless it goes against your da'as or your senses.
Right.
And then you fix it conservatively. You check the Masorah, you check it grammatically, and then like allegories are like last result.
Will you always read it as the Masorah reads it?
Well, for mitzvos, yes, right? I don't think just from all the commentary I've seen from him, he's not beholden to Divrei Chazal in Agadata, in terms of like the example I gave about the Yocheved. I don't even know if I gave this example. The Yocheved thing with Moshe. Did we talk? Yeah, in one shiur that
Chazal was good.
No, this is a different one. That Yocheved was born between the walls. Like on the way to Mitzrayim, right? And so she was. So he said his argument is, if Yocheved gave birth or was born then, and we know how old Moshe was when he went out of Mitzrayim, then we can calculate Yocheved's age when she gave birth to Moshe, and it turns out that Yocheved was like 130, I think, because Moshe was 80 when he left Mitzrayim, and so right. Yeah. Because he died at 120, right? And they were in the middle for 40 years. So, so he says it turns out Yocheved would have had to give birth at 130, and that would be a much greater miracle than Sarah giving birth to Yitzchak. Okay, in her old age, not the fact that she was barren and she became fertile, but like that age. So he says, since miracles are a cornerstone of like our emunah, the Torah would call attention to that miracle.
Right.
And so he says the fact that the Torah doesn't say it means that it didn't happen.
Right. He says that about the Kishon Aish also.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, so Kishon Aish, I was gonna bring that up. I'll bring that up in a second. But so he says that. So then he works it all out about how old she actually was. I think he works out that she was like 67, which he says is like pretty impressive, but not like a crazy thing. But the point is, Chazal and the Gemara explicitly say that it was a miracle. Her that she gave birth, and he's not bothered by that. Now he does use a phrase sometimes, and I forgot if he uses this by the Kivshon Aish. Is he says in Kabbalahu like Nakabel or in Masorahu something like that. Like if it's a Masorah, we'll accept it. But and then he gives his interpretation. So I don't like you've got like drushos that are pure drush. And then you've got drushos that are couched in historical factual terms. You know, like this happened on this day, or like so-and-so did such and such, you know? And I don't know what a shita is on those. Like, I don't know if that's where he would say like his Masorah thing, like, okay, fine. Like, cause like there is a reality, even though Agadata are not given at Sinai, there is a reality, and therefore like the authority is not the same as Torah Shabbat Peh. There is a reality to the fact that like you could have a Masorah passed down in the nation, like a factual Masorah, you know, and you're not going to deny that because it would be irrational to deny something that is like part of the Masorah. Like, let's say, for example, you know, like how did the Jews in Mitzrayim know about the Akedah? Because it was passed down throughout the ages, you know, like, you know, so if you deny that, that's just irrational. That's just denying like, you know, the founding of the country, like, you know. So I don't know what he does about those kinds of Agarata. Yeah.
Just a side question. 40 years was from when they left Egypt? I thought 40 years was like only decreed after X amount of time.
They were at Sinai for 2 years, right? Yeah. Because they're at, I always am bad with the timeline here. They started leaving Sinai, wasn't it a year and 2 months, or am I getting that? Yeah.
Since the Exodus?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And then the Meraglim thing happened. And I always get mixed up with the whole like end of the 40 years, like the 39.
38.
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay, fine.
Yeah, so not sure. Yeah.
It's possible.
No, I'm just at like if Moshe was, you said he was 80, so that'd be 40 years. I mean, if you think he died at 120, 40 years, then he's 80 at Mitzrayim, unless the 40 started later.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm
been like 78.
I'm pretty bad with dates. And
okay, fine.
Yeah. But isn't there a possibility that says Moshe was 80? Or am I totally imagining that?
Maybe.
I don't remember that.
I gotta look it up now.
I have no idea when it's like explicit and talking about ages and
40 years started from the two. So.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, fine. It's possible. I don't know. That's enough.
Yeah.
I just need to.
This is weird because I always thought of it as like a decree. Okay, you're going to be in the desert for 40 years.
Right. It was like.
Yeah, but it's really like they didn't screw up right away. Like the Meraglim was only later, so the
I think
punishment.
it was really like the thing is that they counted from Chedjig.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's an account seven. I just didn't know. It's like wasn't like finally finished.
So that's still not for 40 years. That's
minus a month or two
time.
Yeah. Whatever. Few weeks.
I mean, if you want to put the exact like months on Moshe when they left, but it doesn't really bother me so much. I'm just like curious.
When did he leave? He died on his birthday.
The 15th.
Signed on that, right?
14th.
Right.
Not crazy. Just turned 80.
Did I type in the wrong thing?
No, I don't think you do it like that.
Oh, I didn't type in Shmonim. Shmonim, come on.
I stopped when they left.
What?
As if I didn't know when they stopped.
If only you had a reminder on your arm.
Yeah.
Right.
Until this year, I always thought that like yeshiva shame behavior was like a very like drush-y thing to say because it's like oh like Shane was still alive or whatever. But I was just like looking at the ages and like he lived for like 200 years after I was born. So like
I found the pasuk. This is
super old.
Imagine
being 800.
I've seen.
Moshe ben Shmonim Shana, Aaron ben Shalosh Ushmonim Shana, B'Dabram El Paro.
Okay.
There you go.
Cool.
Yeah.
Great.
Alrighty.
Nice.
Yeah, I might not know how to calculate, but I think I remember when I read the puzzle.
I wasn't doubting it.
Yeah, no, I know. I just I was doubting it when you questioned it. Yeah. Okay. Shall we go to the next derech?
Yes.
Okay.
Wait.
Well, what?
Oh.
What?
Wait, I think we're thinking of the same. Doesn't that mean Aaron was like 121 when he died?
Oh yeah, he was. He's 123.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right.
Wait. Yeah.
Yeah, because he died the same year.
Oh, that's what I meant.
Same year as Moshe.
but I don't know
Yeah.
False. Okay, Ibn Ezra. I accidentally closed this.
other than that guy in different
What?
Other than that guy in different
Okay, so we are now in the first intro again, the fourth derech.
Okay.
Whichever page that is.
We weren't thinking the same thing.
No.
Okay. All right. This one I have not looked at. For some reason, I thought the third deck would take us longer, so I haven't looked at this recently. But we'll figure it out. Okay, the fourth. Haderech Harvis Karova El Hanakuda. We got this one's close. Okay, the fourth derech is close to the point, to the center. V'radfu achareha aguda. I don't know if that is a person or if it's a group. A group has pursued it, maybe. Let me see.
After the round.
Say again?
Like they're running around it?
No, I think they ran towards it. I think. Yeah, a group of commentators has pursued it. It says here.
Where's the fourth there?
Um,
Press page 1.
Oh, there it is. It was the highlight kept catching my eye, and I'm like, that's not it.
Yeah. Okay, Zos Derech HaChachamim. That seems good. Artzos Yavanim Va'adomim. Oh. This is the way of the sages in Greece and Rome. Shelo yabitu al mishkal moznaim rak yismechu al derech drash kolekach tov ve'orei naim. Okay, so they did not pay attention to grammar, and they relied entirely on the derech of drash, like lekach tov, right? We know lekach tov.
Yes.
It's a collection of midrashim.
What is that?
Ad Hayom Hazeh. It is, according to footnote, a midrashic commentary on the Pentateuch and the five scrolls composed by Rav Tovia ben Eliezer of Kastoria, which is another name for Bulgaria in the 11th century.
Nice.
And then Or Einayim is a midrash composed by Rav Meir of Kastoria. Not Kastoria, just cranking out these midrashic commentaries. Rav Meir was a student. Oh, he was a student of Rav Tovia ben Eliezer. Okay, fine. All right. He's going after the master and his disciple here. The achar shiyim tu'um hamidrash misifra kadmonim lama yigionu lechasram shenis ele ha'achronim. Oh, it was not a dig at Rashi because I don't think they were aware of each other, but it is a dig at Rashi, right? He's saying, if you found these midrashim in the books of the kadmonim, why are we exerting ourselves to write them a second time? Okay, right? Like another, because remember, this is not inherently a criticism of what they're doing. It's a criticism of their commentaries on Chumash, right? Or their approach to learning Chumash. So, like, just gonna put the midrash in there. V'yesh drash hefech drash. There are drashas that are the opposite of one another. V'yesh lo sod, and I assume means there are drashas that have a sod. The eininu meforash, and it's not explicit. Kedrash she'torah kadma u. Right, for another long-winded thing here. Kidrash. He's so angry he just can't even rhyme. Yeah. Didn't he? V'yesh derech drash hafek drash v'yesh lo sod v'einin meforash. Yeah. Kidarash she'torah kadma alpayim shana kodem ha'olam v'ze'emes rak al sod derech ha'ne'elam. So like the midrash that the Torah was created 2,000 years before the world. You ever heard that one? And this is true, but there's a sod that is hidden. A lot of people don't understand this way, but it's not possible to take it literally. Oh, here we go. I'm going to switch to the astronomy. Okay.
Check that out.
Yeah. Okay, here we go. This is when the Ibn Ezra students will like have to go to the bathroom, when he's like about to get to the astronomy part. Actually, it is impossible to take this midrash statement literally because a year is made up of a given number of days, and the measure of the minute and the day is contingent upon the motion of the sphere. Woo!
Well,
Hence,
that's like pretty reasonable.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, but he says, hence, if there's no sphere, there's no day. Certainly not 2 days or a year or 2,000 years. Right. So that's just explaining why you can't have like a fixed period of time before the universe was created. If one were to ask, what was the world like before creation? Would he not be ashamed of himself for seeking an entity when as yet there was nothing in existence? Those who respond by saying that God created, so I guess the question there is like, where was this Torah? Those who respond by saying that God created other worlds before this one and that he created this world at a propitious time, multiverse theory, are offering an answer based on the plummet of emptiness, which is a phrase from Yeshayahu. Similarly, those who say that the Almighty, I could switch back. I thought this was a long-winded astronomical thing. I guess I was just fearing for no reason.
But I mean, isn't that a midrash also?
Yeah.
That he created a bunch of worlds. God did.
Yeah. So that midrash he's saying is he seems to be disagreeing with, right? He's saying
Yeah,
that's
or-
a
straight up
plumb line of
rejecting
whatever.
it.
Well, or that's also like a drug, like not shot, and so
That could be,
you just
yeah.
kinda
So you
put the
can't
two
say
things
that
together and, like,
that is the explanation for
right.
this. Yeah, that could be. Yeah. So it's Benuya al Avne Bohu, right? Oh yeah. Oh, there's a good rhyme there. Hold on. Yeah, he says, V'hamashivim shabara Hashem es ha'olam be'esh yeda ki tovhu gamzo tshuva Benuya al Avne Bohu. Yeah. Okay. V'chein ha'omrim shabarao laharos gvuraso. Okay, so those who say that God created the world in order to show His greatness, la'adam shu shorash yitziraso, to the man who is the root of its creation. V'hine samu tu shuvasam ha'amula chelik katan mehashe'ela ha'gadola. Oh, so okay, I do have to switch back here. I think he's saying if you're going to say that God brought the world into existence to show us His greatness, then he says they have satisfied themselves with a miserable answer which takes into consideration only a part of a larger problem. There's clear proof to all but the blind that only 1/12 of the earth is inhabited. I meant to look at, actually I did look at this briefly on Shabbos. I want to see what percent of the world is inhabited.
Well, I mean, like 70% of the world is water.
Right. What percent of the land, I guess,
Yeah.
of land is inhabited? Because I assume it's going to be way less than Ibn Ezra thought, because he's really only taking the world like Europe and the Mediterranean.
Right. That's like the most populated.
Yeah. Okay. So it says here, 3 centuries ago, humans were intentionally using just around 5% of the planet, with nearly half the world's land effectively wild. So that's not really saying where they lived. All right, fine, whatever.
Isn't that?
It was not 3 centuries.
Oh, it says here. Hold on.
I'm not saying that it was.
No, because
Most
this
people don't
is talking about agriculture
Oh, I see.
and stuff. Yeah.
I don't even like what's the metric?
I don't
Like
even
if
know.
you
Yeah.
have, let's say 4 houses with each one with 2 miles in between.
Right. I guess
Are
what
you
I'm
considering that all inhabited?
what I'm
Or
thinking of
only,
is, let's say
this-
like you know the Arctic Circle is like not inhabited. Like
Right,
maybe
okay,
maybe the
that's-
person there.
So
Yeah.
saying what's the I
Yeah.
guess anything that's not technically a desert, you would say?
What is it called?
No settlements. I don't know.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Oh yeah. Anyway, so this is clear proof to all but the blind that only 1/12 of the earth is inhabited. Furthermore, the entire earth is an insignificant dot in relation to the sphere over it, and even less so to the outermost sphere. Yeah. So this is a machlokes about whether the world was created for man, right, or to what extent like the entirety of creation exists for man. So like the Rambam is very clear that you cannot say that everything exists for man, you know, and he makes similar arguments based on the size of the universe and such, and obviously that's even more now. So Ibn Ezra is saying that you can't say that the world was made for man. I don't know why he's bringing this up though. The interpretation of Yom Yom, daily, as meaning 2,000 years, which I guess is what the drasha is based on, is also wrong from a purely exegetical point of view. If the meaning of Yom Yom was 2,000 years, scripture would have read Yomayim rather than Yom Yom, daily. This is so because the meaning of Yom Yom is daily. We similarly read, and he gives a bunch of examples, Ish Ish, and blessed be the day that the Lord Yom Yom. Those who are interested in the commentary on that. Okay, all right, next. Skip 2 where he says, the first word on the line is kavua. It's like 10-ish words down.
Yeah.
Gam yesh drashu tov la'acherim. Oh wait, did I skip one? Hold on. Oh yeah, sorry, I skipped one. Right after footnote 116. Gam yesh drash, that's the same phrase.
Yep.
Gam yesh drash l'harviach nefesh chalusha behalacha kasha. I think we mentioned this once, that there are midrashim that the only purpose of it is to give relief to minds that are like fatigued from being involved in halacha, you know. V'yesh drush misvara yadua, and there's a drush from svara yadua. What does that mean? 117. Yesh drush shemotzao misvara yadua v'yesh legalosa.
Oh, you went back like 2 lines.
What was that?
I didn't catch. You went back like 2 lines.
Yeah, you know you said that.
Oh, yeah, I didn't catch it.
Yeah. Footnote 116. Sorry about that.
Yeah, I think he means that it's like something that is already known, you know, like the Avraham and Rambam's category of like the simple ideas. So he's saying that there are drushes for different purposes. Okay, v'yeshu kehalacha she'einena kavua. That's interesting. There are some that are like a halacha that's not kavua. So is that like halachic drush, or is that like? Well, I don't know what he means by that. Gam yesh drashu tov la'acherim. There are also drushes that are good for others. V'yadrich b'derech tavuna es hana'arim, and they guide in understanding the youths. Ki yesh of she'inenu roa b'yom hanagohos uvolayla roa mipnei she'inav kehos. Oh, this is like a riddle. You want me to tell you the riddle? I think it's a riddle.
Still think it's a riddle.
Where's his English garden?
There is a bird that cannot see on sunny days and is able to see only at night because its eyes are dim. What am I? What?
Ow.
Oh, no, that itself was a riddle, I guess. He says, well, at least according to him, he says, similarly, there are people who cannot be told the literal truth. Meaning, like, these people are like these birds that owls can see they can see in the day.
I guess. They're nocturnal.
Yeah, they're nocturnal, but that's not because they're like blind.
Vampires.
I think you're thinking of, it might be actually, I was gonna say it might be a theory that they had about bats, but I don't know. I don't know if they know. I don't know what they knew about animals. But the point is that like the midrashim are for these people who are too blind to see the truth. Okay. Oh, this is a fun one. Among the midrashim that are for the young is the one that says that the Torah opens with a bet because the word bracha opens with a bet. Okay, so then, yeah, there's a whole genre of midrashim about like why the Torah begins with the
there's a whole story in the midrash of like why it's supposed to start with aleph. Like someone's going through
that sounds familiar.
like,
Yeah,
picking like which letter should be it.
Yeah. Okay, no.
And like the aleph got snubbed.
Yeah.
So then that's why the aleph starts a difference. That's how Shem made it up to the aleph.
Interesting.
I'm pretty sure it's in the midrash.
Yeah.
That's
So you're saying that's a category of one that's for the young, and then he gives these amusing knockdown of this. He says,
"How do you know if it's for the young or like there's actually?"
You don't. That's the thing is that like, the only way is to be familiar with lots of midrashim that have commentaries from lots of chachamim. That was why I wanted to do that Sasan and Simcha thing, the midrash that we did about that, right? Because there you had like radically different interpretations about what you're supposed to get out of it, So then he knocks down. What do you think the easiest refutation is of the fact that, that this is like the fact that the Torah began with the beis because of bracha? How do you think he's going to refute that?
It had to start with some letter. Right?
Yeah, right. It has to start somewhere. But he gives one. He says, now the fact is there are many curses that open with a bet also. Yeah, and then he gives a bunch of examples. He gives like 15 examples. Okay.
Wow.
And then he says, what about the reish? Okay, Bereishis, right? Like I guess this is a midrash that he's talking about where it like darkens every letter. So it says if it stands for the head, as in its head was of fine gold, it can also stand for evil. Okay, whatever. Anyone with a little bit of intelligence, and certainly one who has knowledge of Torah, can create his own midrashim. Okay, this was a thing I don't have a memory of this, but my dad remembers this when we were first becoming involved in Judaism, and at the Reform temple that we happened to be at the time. It was like a write your own midrash workshop.
That sounds pretty fun.
It does, yeah.
Reform thing.
Yeah. Oh, look, he references our thing from Eicha. He says that. Hold on, let's find it in Hebrew. Where are we at now in Hebrew?
Oh, you didn't know we had a thing from
Didn't we read a thing from Eicha last time with the midrashim, like clothing?
Oh
Yeah.
Oh.
Hold on here. We're almost at the end of this fourth derech. Where is it? Where does it talk about? Where is he? If you can find the place where he says that you can create your own midrashim. Oh yeah. It's footnote right after 121.
122.
No. Not the number after 121. Asher ma'ad hasechal b'libo v'af ki asher chachmas elokim b'kirbo yuchal lahotzi midrashim. So anyone can create midrashim. V'kulam kneged aguf hapashut hem kamalbushim. All of them are to the simple body like malbushim. So the one in Eichel was better because he said that there's the thick malbushim and then the
silk and
the silky ones. Yeah. V'kadmonenu zichron livracha amru al kacha ein mekra yitzei midei b'shuta. Okay, fine. Then he goes on. Okay, Drush, Bereishis, Berua. Yeah.
I just want to discuss that a little bit. Look what he said. So just about his critique about midrashim, I'd like to.
Can we actually, just because can we just finish this? I just want to see if there's anything else here, and then we'll continue because I just want to see if there's anything else that he says, and then or if it's just more examples. I think it's just more examples. Examples of midrashim that you can't take literally, or that they're written for some other purpose, or that you shouldn't relate to them the way people think you should relate to them. Yeah. Oh, and then let's just look at the very last sentence. That's all we need. Right before the derech chamishis. The sof davar ein lidrash sof. Midrashim are infinite, right? That there's Isaac, what were you gonna say? And then I want to try to summarize his critique of this approach here.
Well, I was gonna. I want to give a defense of Rashi.
Okay. I'm only bashing Rashi because Ibn Ezra's spirit.
Yeah.
I'm not. I know Rashi is doing more than just writing down midrashim.
Yeah.
He's selecting midrashim very carefully.
Yeah, that was what I was just
saying. He's tweaking the words and highlighting the ones that either give insight into the pshat or into the extra, like the textual anomalies. But Ibn Ezra doesn't like that. Yeah, because he says, why do we need to copy them over again? Yeah. And Rashi's also not giving guidance as to how you should look at the midrashim, right? Like how the midrashim should be learned, And it seems like that's a big part of his critique, that someone who's just copying and pasting midrashim is not helping the reader to learn Chumash, because how do they know what kind of approach to take? How do they know how to make, like, is this a midrash for kids? Is this a midrash for like teaching you a sod? Is this like a known idea? Is it a riddle? Is it giving you insight into the pshat? Is it based on real grammar? Is it a halakha that we don't paskin like? And so he's saying it's not useful he's saying they are running towards the center of the circle, but they're not. It's not a good parish of the Torah. Yeah. Were you going to add anything else to the defense of that?
No, you said everything I was going to say.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, let's stop here for today. I don't want to. What?
Like you finished, you answered before we finished speaking.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah, but you're correct.
Bad.
No, you're correct. So.
Yeah. Let's stop here for today because I don't want to start the fifth derech now.
Okay.
All right.
Are these like for are there any other drachim that are possible?